The Cricket World Cup isn't just a tournament, it's the pinnacle of cricketing glory. For India, the 2011 edition was more than just about winning. It was about making history. 28 years after their iconic triumph at Lord's, they had a chance to reclaim that glory, this time at home in front of over 1 billion cricket-obsessed fans. India's squad on paper looked unbeatable. Led by the calm and composed MS Dhoni, it boasted the likes of the legendary Sachin Tendulkar, the explosive duo of Gautam Gambhir and Virender Sehwag, along with Yuvraj Singh, performing at his absolute best. A young but hugely talented Virat Kohli also made the list. The bowling department was held down by veterans Zaheer Khan and Harbhajan Singh, and yet nothing was guaranteed. Cricket is never won on paper. Adding to the stakes was the weight of history. This was likely Sachin Tendulkar's final World Cup. A World Cup trophy was the only piece missing from his unparalleled career. And while home advantage brought energy, it also piled on immense pressure. Memories of heartbreak in 2003 and humiliation in 2007 weighed heavy on Indian minds. The competition was fierce, to say the least. Australia was aiming to add a 4th consecutive trophy to their cabinet and a 5th overall. South Africa came in with a point to prove, and Sri Lanka, with their well-balanced team, also provided a huge threat. Add in the likes of England, New Zealand and arch-rivals Pakistan, India's path to victory was going to be anything but easy. As the tournament approached, the fans held their breath in anticipation. The streets were a sea of Indian jerseys and flags. Hope was in the air. But the real test was yet to come. The world was watching. Would India rise to the challenge? India's World Cup journey began with a thrashing of their neighbours Bangladesh, a team that had been responsible for knocking them out of the 2007 World Cup. Sehwag and Kohli set the tone for the hosts, smashing hundreds on their way to an imposing total of 370. Bangladesh tried to return the favour, but the looming run rate coupled with a lower order collapse proved too much. The Indian campaign was off to a flying start. The second game against England turned out to be a match for the ages. With India batting first in Bengaluru, Sachin Tendulkar displayed his true class, scoring a magnificent 100 to help India to 339. In reply, English skipper Andrew Strauss scored an incredible 158 to keep the game balanced. Late heroics from Zaheer Khan brought India close, but with 14 required off the last over, England managed to score 13, ending the game in a tie. While a great result for neutrals, this game was a wake-up call for India. Their bowlers needed to step up. The next 2 games against Ireland and the Netherlands turned out to be the regulation wins for the hosts. Yuvraj Singh brought his A-game, scoring runs and taking wickets to help his side to comfortable wins. With their nerves steadied, India headed into their 5th game, which would prove to be their toughest challenge yet. Batting first, Sachin Tendulkar again brought out all the stops with another fine century. Sehwag and Gambhir helped pile on the runs, but a shocking collapse saw India go from 267 for 2 to 296 all out, all in the space of 10 overs. The South African batting order came out with all guns blazing and took the game to the final over. India needed to defend 13 of the last 6 balls for a win. This time, however, they weren't let off so easily. Robin Peterson smashed 16 off the first 4, handing India their first defeat of the tournament. Despite having qualified for the quarterfinals, there was still some work to be done. India's bowling woes would prove fatal in the knockouts. Could the Indian bowlers rise to the occasion and go all the way? We were about to find out. The group stages were history, and the real challenges had begun for India. Their opponents in the quarterfinals, none other than the formidable Australians themselves. A team that had rode into the World Cup on the back of the longest unbeaten run in World Cup history. 34 games unbeaten since 1999. Fun fact, Pakistan was the last team to beat them before their streak started in 1999. They were also the team to end it in 2011. Australia batted first, with skipper Ricky Ponting adding to this stellar World Cup record with another century. With the exception of Brad Haddin and David Hussey, the rest of the batting lineup struggled, and some smart Indian bowling restricted Australia to a decent total of 260. India started well, with Sehwag setting the tone once again, and the Little Master scoring yet another half-century. Gambhir also chipped in with a crucial 50. However, regular wickets threatened India's chances until Yuvraj and Suresh Raina stepped in, steering India into a comfortable win in the end. Stealing the deal with a powerful boundary, Yuvraj had done the unthinkable, knocked Australia out of the tournament that they had made their own. Having slayed the invincible Aussies, India was on its way to the semi-finals, where things were about to get spicier. Next up, the biggest fixture in world cricket. A battle between two cricket-crazy nations, where India had never lost to Pakistan in a World Cup. India versus Pakistan games are always high stakes, but this one was on a whole other level. A chance to claim bragging rights, and more importantly, to book a place in the World Cup final. Fans packed the stadium in Mohali, and millions more tuned in from home. The atmosphere was electric. India batted first, and Sehwag started the innings in typical belligerent fashion. But once again, it was Sachin Tendulkar who was the backbone of the innings. It wasn't his smoothest performance to date. He survived a few close calls and was even dropped a couple of times. But he stayed at the crease and scored a vital 85 runs. Other players chipped in with small but important contributions, and India finished with a total of 260. It was a decent score, but it didn't guarantee a victory. India's bowlers started well enough. Zaheer Khan made inroads on the 8th over, and regular wickets mounted the pressure on Pakistan. A young Umar Akmal provided some fight, but once Harbhajan and Munaf Patel cleaned up the middle order, it was only a matter of time before the Pakistani counterattacks was foiled. In the face of an ever-increasing run rate, the Pakistani batting order collapsed, and the game ended in a 29-run victory for the hosts. All of India's bowlers had shown up for this crucial semi-final, with especially brilliant spells from Ashish Nehra, Harbhajan and Munaf Patel. The game was done and dusted. The noisy neighbours had been silenced, pride had been reclaimed, and a spot in the all-important final was secured. And while the Indian supporters went wild with delight, the entire nation kept one eye on Mumbai, where the Sri Lankans were waiting with plans of their own. The day everyone had been waiting for was finally here. India versus Sri Lanka in the 2011 Cricket World Cup final. The Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai was packed with fans, all hoping to witness history. The stakes couldn't have been higher. Both countries were competing for a second World Cup to add to their record. India hoping to relive memories of 1983, and Sri Lanka hoping to replicate their success of 1996. Sri Lanka won the toss and chose to bat first. Zaheer Khan, who had been India's star bowler throughout the tournament, started with a miserly spell. His opening overs were precise, giving away almost no runs and building early pressure. At the other end, Sri Lanka's batsmen looked cautious, trying to avoid losing early wickets. The breakthrough came when Zaheer sent Sri Lanka's opener Upul Taranga packing, immediately energising the Indian team. However, Kumar Sangakkara and Tilkaratne Dilshan began to settle in, building a slow yet steady partnership. Just when Sri Lanka seemed to be gaining control, Harbhajan Singh struck, removing the dangerous Dilshan. But the real turning point came when Mahela Jayawardene stepped into bat. From the moment he took guard, he looked in complete control, playing elegant shots all around the ground. Jayawardene kept the scoreboard ticking and built partnerships with the middle and lower order. As the innings entered the final overs, Sri Lanka accelerated. Zaheer, who had been economical earlier on, was taken apart by the Sri Lankan batsman in his latter spell. Jayawardene reached a brilliant century, leading Sri Lanka to a total of 274, a challenging target for India in a high-pressure game. India's chase began on the worst possible note. In the very first over, Sehwag was dismissed without scoring. The crowd, which had been jumping with excitement, fell silent when Tendulkar, the man every Indian fan was relying on, got out on a few overs later. The stadium was stunned. India was 31 for 2, and their dream seemed to be slipping away. But while everything was falling apart, Gautam Gambhir took control. Calm and focused, he began rebuilding the innings alongside Virat Kohli. The pair rotated the strikes smartly, refusing to let the pressure get to them. Slowly but surely, they brought India back into the game. And just as the nerves were starting to calm, Kohli fell to a sharp catch, leaving India in a precarious position. In a shocking move that would surprise everyone, MS Dhoni decided to promote himself up the order. To add to the nervousness around the stadium, Dhoni hadn't been in great form throughout this tournament, but he was about to step up when it mattered most. From the moment he walked in, Dhoni seemed to be brimming with confidence, finding gaps in the field and keeping the scoreboard moving. Gambhir, meanwhile, was playing one of the most important innings of his life. He guided the team with steady, risk-free batting, eventually reaching the 90s. But just when he seemed on the verge of a century, he misjudged a shot and was bowled for 97. It was a heartbreaking moment, but he had done his job. India was now just 55 runs away from realising their dream, and they still had 6 wickets in hand. With Yuvraj Singh joining Dhoni at the crease, the crowd came back to life. The runs kept flowing, and the finish line seemed closer and closer with each delivery. Every run was greeted with cheers, and the tension in the stadium was palpable. Victory was within reach. All Dhoni had to do was hold his nerves for just a little bit longer. The entire tournament had come down to this. India needed just a few runs to seal the 2011 Cricket World Cup. The Wankhede Stadium buzzed with energy, every fan on their feet chanting and waving flags. The tension was palpable, but on the field, MS Dhoni and Yuvraj Singh remained calm, steadily closing in on history. Sri Lanka's bowlers gave it everything they had, but each ball edged India closer to triumph. The runs kept flowing, and the excitement kept on rising. Then came the moment of truth. 11 balls to go, 4 runs needed. Nuwan Kulasekara charged in with the ball in hand, and Dhoni, ever composed, stepped forward. And with a clean, powerful swing, he sent the ball soaring into the Mumbai night sky. Every player and spectator in the stadium held their breath as the ball flew towards long on. And as it kept going and going, over the boundary rope and straight into the crowd, a wonderful realization started to sink in across the country. The entire stadium erupted into chaos. Ravi Shastri's iconic words rang out. Dhoni finishes off in style, a magnificent strike into the crowd. India lift the World Cup after 28 years. Fans cried, cheered and embraced in pure jubilation. India had finally done it, and they'd achieved their ultimate goal. 28 long years after the unforgettable story at Lord's, the World Cup was once again theirs to claim. On the field, Dhoni stood with his bat raised, his calm exterior masking the enormity of the moment, an image that would become an instant symbol of victory, to be remembered by Indian fans for years to come. For Sachin Tendulkar, it was a dream come true, a dream that he'd held on to for over 2 decades. Carried on his teammates' shoulders, he waved to the crowd, basking in the love of millions. It was perfect justice for the man who had given up everything to Indian cricket, and now in his final World Cup had finally achieved the ultimate glory.
I think winning the World Cup is the ultimate thing, and I am experiencing it. It's the proudest moment of my life.
Well, he's carried the burden of the nation for 21 years, so it's time we carried him on our shoulders.
It's a dream come true. We did it for Sachin. Our one dream was to do it for Sachin and the whole of India, and we did it for him.
Yuvraj Singh, the tournament's standout performer, celebrated with unbridled emotion. His all-round efforts had been crucial to India's success, made even more remarkable by the strength he showed battling an undiagnosed illness, later revealed as a lung tumour, throughout the campaign. He was a beacon of resilience, earning his place among cricket's immortals. As the team lifted the trophy, 1 billion hearts lifted with them. From bustling cities to quiet villages, celebrations erupted across India. Fireworks lit up the night sky, streets thrummed with joy, and the entire nation united in pride. For MS Dhoni, his bold decisions and unwavering leadership secured his legacy as one of cricket's greatest captains. Leading his nation to a World Cup victory would become his biggest achievement, cementing his place among India's cricketing legend. The 2011 Cricket World Cup was more than just a victory. It was a redemption for past heartbreaks, a testament to belief and teamwork, and a chapter of history that would forever inspire generations. For the players, the fans, and the nation, it was a moment of triumph that transcended the sport itself.